Alright, I'm starting a recording of Magium so that I can do reruns later. Magium is a choose-your-own-adventure story app that's free, and I highly recommend everyone download it for themselves because it's really good, and there's a lot of different versions of the story that you can explore, which I'm going to try to do as I read it. Roxy, my PC has been frustrating today, so I'm going to try to continue it, and we shall see how it goes. So, here we go. Please, Roxy, allow this to happen. Yay! So we're starting on chapter 6. Why did it suddenly get cold in here? Magium tends to be very glitchy, so sometimes it disappears and sometimes it just straight up crashes. I'm hoping it does not do that today. And I don't know how to fix it, so we're just gonna have to keep hoping that Roxy and Magium decide to be nice. Oh, okay. Yeah, so here we go. Alright, I think that's a wrap, says Darren, once we finish our strategy meeting. We're currently sitting in a circle in front of our cave's entrance. The sun is pretty high up in the sky and there's not a cloud in sight. Luckily, Kate has graciously agreed to use her ice magic to cool the air around us a bit. This way we can enjoy the weather without feeling as if we were inside an oven. Noon is almost upon us, Darren continues. We should get going as soon as possible. We can't afford to keep traveling once the sun sets, and we have a long road ahead of us. Rose, did you get all of the herbs you were looking for? No. Oh no! I just remembered. I dropped my bag of herbs when I was being chased by the goblins. Don't worry, I doubt anyone would have stolen it, so it must still be where you left it. I'll help you look for it. Come with me. I get up to follow them, but Kate grabs me by the sleeve. Wait, she says. There's something that's been bothering me since this morning. She looks really tense. It seems that she's struggling to get the words out of her mouth. Were you... She pauses. Were you really smitten with me since you first saw me? Of all the things I would have expected her to say to me right now, this was the last of them. Thanks a lot, Darren. What am I supposed to tell her now? Maybe a little, or of course not. Darren was just joking earlier. Don't worry about it. I know that I'm trying to do a good, smart berry, but I think that I'm going to leave all of the romance options open, because there's a couple different romance options. Oh no, it just crashed. Off to a great start. So since I'm trying to follow that route, I'm going to go with maybe a little. Maybe a little, I tell her. You were? I thought he was just joking. I'm sorry. I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but I'm not interested right now. I only said a little. What's gotten into you all of a sudden? This isn't like you. Kate looks away, takes a deep breath, and exhales before she continues. When those three mages attacked us earlier, it made me realize something. You and Rose are the only persons I've ever met that did not treat me like some kind of monster. Even if people don't always say it openly like those three mages did, there's something in their eyes that gives them away. Something that makes it clear that they do not see me as human. It's the same with Darren. Despite what you've said, I don't think he truly believes I'm not a banshee. I think it's only a matter of time before I'll have to fight him, just like I've had to fight everyone else. I guess she's starting to see through my lie already. I was hoping I could convince her not to lose her trust in Darren, but it seems she never really had much trust in him to begin with. Kate shifts her gaze back to me. But you and Rose, you're different. When I talk to you, I see neither fear nor apprehension in your eyes. You speak to me as normally as you would speak to any other person. I do not know why that is. I do not know what's wrong with you, but thank you for making me feel part of the group for the first time in my life. Hey, you there! Darren shouts from a distance as he and Rose come back from the forest. We found Rose's bag not far from here. It's still got all of her herbs inside. We should be good to go. When he gets closer, he looks at me and Kate and says, I'm sorry, did we interrupt something? Yeah, Kate was just professing her love to me. Her love for me. Or, no, you're right, we should get going. Since I'm going for the good smart berry, I'm gonna be nice. No, you're right, we should get going. Darren looks like he'd have a few more questions for us, but he decides to let it drop for now. We both head for the cave to make sure we're not forgetting anything. Just as we reach the cave's entrance, Mullen, the deer fawn, jumped up and looked down, looking very excited. Mommy, come quick. It's Aunt Rose. Aunt Rose came to visit us." Rose's usual warm smile perished from her face when she saw the deer fawn and was replaced with a sad expression in her eyes. "Rose?" says Ilaria as she exits the cave. "Rose, is that you?" "Yes," Rose answers in the deer's language, not bringing herself to look her in the eyes. "It's been a while." "It has. We haven't seen you in months. And you used to visit us so often. Rose, you know you'll always be welcome in our home, right?" "I know. I'm sorry, I have to go now." "Aunt Rose, you're not staying?" the deer fawn asks her. "Don't worry, little one," Ilaria tells her son. I'm sure she'll come back and stay longer when she'll be ready. She must have something important to do. You know how she is, always busy helping people." "Thank you. And I'm sorry," Rose says as she bows and turns away from the deer. God, this mouse is so annoying. God, this mouse. "Here are your things," Ilaria says as she shows us her backpacks. "I took the liberty of making some more food for you in case you get hungry and want to eat something other than roots and berries." "Thank you for all your help," I tell her. "I hope we meet again." It's a small continent. I'm sure our paths will cross again someday. Kate and I say our goodbyes to the two deer, and we go on our way. Before leaving, I make sure to take with me my spoils of war from this morning's skirmishes: a crossbow from one of the crossbowmen who ambushed us, a dagger from one of Cutthroat Dave's men, and the treasure I took from the Duke of Bagleberry. We join back with Rose, and we set off on our long road ahead. Rose is looking a little distraught after her discussion with Ilaria. I wonder if I should say something to her given the circumstances. Leave her alone? Ask her how she met Ilaria? Ask her if something happened between her and Ilaria? I think I'll go with ask her how she met Ilaria. Hey, I've been meaning to ask, how did you and Ilaria meet? You seem to know each other quite well. My question took Rose by surprise. She must have realized she wasn't acting like herself because she immediately regained her smile when she started answering me. "Oh, I met Ilaria and Mullen a few years ago when I was out collecting herbs. Mullen was very sick, and I helped make an ointment to cure his illness. We've been friends ever since." "And then something happened?" Rose's smile remained on her face, but her eyes started to show a bit of sadness. "It was that obvious, huh?" "Yes, something happened, although it wasn't something that Ilaria or I did. A few months ago, after the death of our grand priest, people started to get desperate. Our last reserves of food were dwindling, and it wasn't long before only the rich had access to any kind of conjured food that remained. Animal hunting became more and more popular, and a war between the animals and the humans was inevitable. The war had cost us many lives, including Mullen's father. Ever since he died, I couldn't bring myself to look either of them in the eyes again. That's why I haven't visited them for so long." "It wasn't your fault." "That's stupid, you weren't the one who killed him." Or, "Ilaria didn't seem to mind your presence." "Ilaria didn't seem to mind your presence." Personally, I think you're only making things worse by deciding not to visit them. I guess you're right. After seeing how they reacted when they saw me, I realize now that it might have been selfish of me to cut ties with them just like that. I should have stuck by them in their time of need. Next time I visit them, it will be different. Thank you, Barry, for setting me straight. Her warm smile is back on her face, and this time it looks like it's sincere. "You're welcome," I tell her as we end our conversation and continue on our way. Kate seems to have caught some of our conversation because she is smiling at me faintly. Shortly after we begin our trip, Darren notices that I've strapped my crossbow to the back of my backpack. "Barry, why aren't you just putting that crossbow inside the backpack like you did with everything else?" "Well, because it's already full with all my other stuff." "Full? Wait a minute, Barry, are you telling me that backpack you are carrying with you right now is actually a completely regular one?" "Well, yeah, enchanted backpacks are really hard to come by if you're not a mage." "You realize you could have asked me to enchant it for you, right? It literally only takes a few minutes. Here, give me that." Darren grabs my backpack and enters in enchanting trance. His eyes become yellow and the backpack starts to glow. The fact that Darren specializes on item enchanting had completely slipped my mind. Enchanted backpacks are leagues better than normal ones. They have almost infinite space and people can't see what's inside them, so they can only steal your stuff if they know exactly what they're looking for. Taking an item out of an enchanted backpack is as simple as focusing on its image and reaching inside for it. Rose is looking very interested in the enchanting process. She is now studying Darren closely. "Hey Barry," Darren asks, "do you want to have your backpack extra secure, or should I just leave it like this? If I secure it, then only you will be able to take items out of it. The only downside is that you can't really authorize other persons to take items from your backpack once you secure it. Normally, security wouldn't be much of a problem with these backpacks because someone has to actually know what you have inside before taking an item, but it never hurts to be safe." Secure the backpack. Do not secure the backpack. I'm going to go with do not secure the backpack. "No, leave it like that. It's secure enough as it is." "As you wish." Once he's done enchanting my backpack, he hands it back to me and then turns to Rose. "I can see you're very interested in my craft. Would you perhaps like to have your backpack enchanted as well?" Rose blushes, realizing she'd been a bit too obvious in her curiosity. "I would be honored," she answers. Once he's done with her backpack too, we continued on our way. We spend the next few hours traveling south, taking the most direct route available to Rose's town. Her usual route was designed to avoid most areas that are known to be frequented by monsters, but Darren insisted on delivering the cure to the sick as soon as possible and said that our group should be more than able to handle a few monster attacks. The scenery that we've seen during our travel has been rather underwhelming. Maybe my expectations were too high, but I always thought that the fabled continent of Varathia would be filled with all sorts of natural wonders and mythical creatures. All I've seen today were your everyday pine and oak forest, with a lake or a river here and there to keep it from becoming completely monotonous. At least it's been a few hours since the last time we've been attacked, which is quite an achievement judging by how this tournament has been going so far. Kate has opened up a bit since her last discussion with me. When we first met yesterday, she looked very tense, and it seemed as though she was expecting us to try and kill her the moment she turns her back on us. Now she seems calmer, and she allows herself to smile a little more often, even if only faintly, especially when she's talking with Rose. We've been keeping a steady pace so far, and there's been no breaks except for occasionally stopping to get some fruits from the trees or to fill our gourds with water from a river. During one of these small breaks, Rose approached me in private to ask me about the discussion I had with Kate this morning. "Barry, I've been meaning to ask. Did we actually interrupt an important discussion between you and Kate this morning? Kate's been acting evasive every time I brought up the subject. I'd feel terrible if you two lost the chance to confess your feelings for each other because Darren and I couldn't read the mood. So the options are, don't worry, that wasn't what our discussion was about. Actually, I prefer women with larger breasts like yourself. I'm still available if that's what you're asking. You've got it all wrong. My feelings are for you. Don't worry, we got to say all we needed before you interrupted. Actually, you're the one that stunned me with your beauty when I first saw you. So, good, smart Barry, who has open romance options. I'm going to go with, I'm still available if that's what you're asking. I'm still available if that's what you're asking. Rose smiles. That's not what I was asking, but it does answer my question. I doubt you'd be making a pass at me like this if there were actually something between you and Kate. As for your advances, I'm not married, so I have no reason to outright turn you down before I get to know you, but I'd rather we postpone this conversation until a later date. Does that sound okay to you? Of course. Or, I want my answer now. I'm gonna go with of course. Of course. Good, Rose says, still smiling. Now come, we should help the others with picking fruits. We'll need all the food we can get before the long journey ahead of us. Rose and I join the others, and once we're all done gathering provisions, we depart once more. As we travel, we start talking about various things. Darren's adventures, our lives before joining the tournament, the reasons we all came here. During our conversations, Darren was of course the one that's been speaking the most, while Kate has been evasive as always about her past and her reasons for being here. Hearing our stories, Rose decides to join our discussion by telling us a bit about herself. I've always liked plants, she tells us, plants and books, so it's no surprise that I spent most of my youth with my nose buried in herbology manuals. As the time passed, I started to learn more about herbal medicine, and I realized my talents could be used to help the people in need. Most people I help don't really have much money to repay me, but the little they give me is enough for me to make a living. And their sincere feelings of gratitude are much more rewarding for me than the money I'd get by only working for rich folk. I've been living a modest life along with my brother and sister, who are 9 and 8 years old, respectively. And ever since my father died last year, I've been occasionally getting some financial support from my ex-husband. You were married? Darren asks. Yes, for a few years, but it didn't really work out in the end. We've both moved on with our lives since then, and we've had no children together, so there were no hard feelings. Ever since my father died, I've had to take care of my siblings all by myself, so my main focus for the past year has been my work and my family. What about your mother? Says Kate. She died long ago when she gave birth to my little sister. Oh, I'm sorry. Rose smiles. There's no need. You couldn't have known. So how did you all handle the death of your grand priest? Darren asks, trying to change the subject. You said that he was the last person alive that could create food out of nothing in your city, so I imagine there must have been some backup plan in case of his inevitable death. Oh yes, many people have started to learn agriculture, but the problem is that most of the fertile terrain around our town is already owned by the nobles. By planting your seeds further away from the town, you run a great risk of getting your crops raided by monsters. Are monster raids frequent in your area? Or why aren't the people rebelling against the nobles? I'm gonna go with Are monster raids frequent in your area? Yes, monsters have been getting bolder in the past few decades. It's not just in our area, it happens throughout the entire continent. I'm not certain, but I think it all started when we lost contact with the animal kingdom. After the first animal hunts were started by the people of Ulmnar several decades ago, the animal's leader, the spirit golden fox, has ordered her subjects to stop speaking in our language. The monsters must have found out about this, and they took advantage of the fact that the humans and animals were no longer working together in order to wreak havoc. What about the gods? Darren asks. Are they not getting involved in any of this? The only gods that are currently getting involved are the god of fate and the god of death, but I very much doubt that any of them have our best interests at heart. It is said that the two of them started working together recently, and that might well be true judging by the high level of cooperation between their followers lately. Wait, isn't the god of fate just a fancy title for the god of illusions? Darren says. Yes, Rose answers. Most gods name themselves after the power their followers gain by worshipping them. Some of them, however, choose other names for themselves, which can be a bit confusing. It is the same for the god of death. Judging by his name, you would think that he reigns over the underworld, but in fact, he is just a god of necromancy, bringing the dead back to life to serve his bidding. As Rose talks, we hear 3 loud beeps coming from my pocket. I pull out my stat device and am surprised to see that the maximum numbers for my stats have now been increased to 4. What's that? Rose asks. It's a toy, Darren says before I get a chance to reply. You know those magical devices that simulate a pet in order to teach little kids about responsibilities? Those beeps you heard were Barry's pet getting hungry. Oh, I love those toys. Ever since I got one for my little sister, I just couldn't keep her apart from it. Ignore Darren, Kate says. He was just being a smartass. What Barry has there is a stat booster. He's using it to harness magical energy from the air, which he can then use to augment his physical abilities. Rose looks impressed. Wow, I did not know such a thing was possible. So that device is basically turning you into a mage? I never thought about it this way. It's true that there are some mages that actually use their magic to augment their powers, in a similar way that this device does. Does that make me one of them? I suppose, I answer her, but it's only temporary. The device will run out of energy once I'm no longer surrounded by all these powerful mages to extract it from. I take a quick look at my stat booster and start to think of what I should spend my newly acquired points on. Invest points now. Alright, I'm going to save here. Wait. Return to game. So it's chapter 6. Alright. Save game. Book 1. Chapter 6. Points 3. So, observation, ancient languages, and So smart would include hearing, I think. I'll wait a moment before. No. I'll come back to that. As I finish using my device, Rose asks me another question. Wait, so if your stat booster extracts magical energy from other mages, does that mean it's also eating away at Darren and Kate's power? It's getting a little bit of energy from every mage in a 30-mile radius, but the amount it takes from each of them is barely enough to mildly inconvenience them. Most of the energy it's getting is from the powerful spells that have been cast all around us since the beginning of this tournament. And that energy would have just dissipated into thin air anyways, so you could just say I'm recycling it rather than stealing it. I think that I get interrupted by a very loud roar that echoes all around us. What's that? Rose asks, visibly scared. A second louder roar now booms through the air. I can feel my hair stand up on the back of my neck. I've never heard this sound before in my life. I have no idea what beast might be causing it. So then, what is this feeling of dread I'm getting all of a sudden? Why do I find myself wanting to run as fast as I can, in any direction, as long as it gets me as far away from this place as possible? Shortly after the second roar ended, a very powerful wind started to blow towards us. I can almost feel it trying to lift me in the air. The trees are barely holding up, and it looks as if they could get pulled out of their roots at any moment. We're lucky that this happened while we were in a clearing, because otherwise we would have had to also protect ourselves from falling trees while trying to hold our ground against the relentless force of the wind. As some of the trees start to fall, a monstrous figure makes its appearance, high above us. It's at least 50 foot tall, with very tough-looking red scales covering its entire body, and wings the size of sails on a long ship. Its claws look as sharp as blades, and its fangs are bared at us menacingly, but its overall appearance is not much different from that of an overgrown lizard. A dragon. They really existed. Is this all happening? Is this all happening because of my disappointment for not encountering any mythical creatures so far? If that's the case, then I take it back. I take it all back. Just please let this all be a dream. Let this all just be the end of a bad dream before I wake up back in our cave, and then we can start our journey anew. Get down! Darren shouts to us as the dragon gets closer, and then lands a few dozen feet in front of us, making the whole ground tremble violently under its weight. No, Rose says, unable to control her shivering, and barely able to keep her balance anymore. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. The dragon looks all around us, as if it were trying to find something, and then it shouts loudly in the common tongue. Where is he? Seeing that none of us are answering, the dragon asks us again, this time giving us a few more details. The Stillwater! Where is he? You reek of his stench. Where are you hiding him? If you're talking about Eden, he left this morning. We're not working with him. We only just met him a few hours ago. Or why are you looking for him? So let's go with Hang on, actually, I want to find something to lift my mic onto. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Slouching over to speak to the mic was starting to hurt my neck. So, good, smart berry. I think if you're talking about Eden, that would be... I'm gonna go with, why are you looking for him? Why are you looking for him? You dare question me? I should rip off your head for your insolence, you little wretch. I was only curious. I didn't mean any offense. We don't know where he went. He never told us. Then you are useless to me. The dragon growls before it continues. I should have known that I'd be wasting my time by trying to communicate with the likes of you. If only that Stillwater would have minded his own business after he returned to the continent instead of writing that accursed message in the sky, I'd have let him be. I suddenly remembered the message that was written in the stars last night. That was Eden's doing? Wait, so you actually do know the location of the Magium? The dragon stops and he eyes me for a few seconds before he continues. So you're a dragon hunter then? Wait, what? You are a fool for challenging me on my own territory, dragon hunter. I've killed hundreds of your kind in the last millennia. I've watched your pathetic human race fumble their way through life ever since they stopped walking on four legs. I could have killed or enslaved you all at any point in your miserable existence if it weren't beneath me. But now you dare rise against me? Your charred remains will serve as my gift for Eden to welcome him back to my realm. The dragon soars to the sky as it shouts its final words to us. God damn it. This mouse is going to be the end of me. Pray to your gods, human. They are the only ones that can save you from the onslaught that will follow. Quick, everyone get behind me, Darren shouts as he raises his shield, and a semi-transparent magical barrier starts to form around us. Kate doubles up our protection by also making a dome of thick ice to surround us. The dragon, who has now raised himself to a sufficiently high altitude, unleashes a downpour of flames upon us. As the flames collide with our protections, we start to feel the air heating up all around us. Kate's ice has already melted away, and all that's standing between us and the torrent of fire is Darren's magical barrier. Rose is now sitting on the ground with a terrified look in her eyes, hugging her legs and shaking violently. "Rose," Kate yells at her, "snap out of it. We'll need to be ready to get out of here as soon as Darren's barrier breaks. Do you hear me?" The dragon's flames have suddenly stopped. Looking up to see what happened, I am terrified to learn that the monster is now quickly diving towards us. Kate tries to make another wall of ice between us and the dragon, but it breaks through in a second and then crashes with Darren's magical barrier, shattering it in an instant. The dragon then grabs Darren in one of its claws and soars back up into the sky. We can hear Darren's screams as the giant lizard tries to crush him. Kate launches several hundred sharp ice blades towards the dragon, but they simply bounce off its armored scales. "Kate!" Darren shouts from the distance. Can you make a slide for me?" "Yes," Kate shouts back as she quickly builds an ice slide that starts below him and ends on the ground next to us. Once he sees the slide finished, Darren furiously thrusts his sword into the dragon's claw as it starts to scream in pain and drops him right on the slide that's been custom made for him. Just as Darren finishes sliding down, the dragon uses his fire breath again, this time aiming directly for Kate. She makes a large, thick shield of ice float above her in order to protect her cover. As the flames and the ice clash, I can see that Kate is making a great effort to keep the fire back. Darren quickly rushes to her position and provides her with cover before her ice melts away. Unfortunately, the fight has weakened him as well, and he does not manage to hold the barrier for long. His barrier breaks, and his shield drops to the ground right when the explosion... His barrier breaks and his shield drops to the ground right when the dragon finishes its attack. The explosion of air generated by the destruction of Darren's barrier sent Rose flying, and she hit her ground on the rock. She is now lying on the ground motionless. Think, Barry, think. What can you do to turn the tide? There has to be something. There has to be a way to use everything you know to your advantage. There has to be a way. Think. "It's over, humans," the dragon shouts triumphantly from high above. "Your era is at an end. I'm going to exterminate every single one of you until all that remains of your race is a forgotten memory. And I'm saving Eden for last." It's no use. My stat device is worthless here. Even if I had all of my stats maxed out, I wouldn't stand a chance. This was all over before it began. As the dragon's flames poured down on us, I closed my eyes, awaiting for my impending doom. After a few seconds of keeping my eyes closed, I realized that I'm still alive. I open my eyes back up and find out to my surprise that the dragon's flames have stopped in midair a few inches before reaching us, as if they were frozen. But that is not all. Looking around me, I see that everyone else is frozen too. Darren, Kate, and Rose are all standing completely still, and I can't even feel the wind anymore. "Seriously now," I hear a familiar voice behind me. How could I let him win after saying a line like that? I quickly turn around and see Eden standing behind me, with his eyes closed as usual and a smile on his face. I mean, I don't think I've even read a children's book where the main villain gloats to such an extent. It's embarrassing, really. Where have you been hiding all this time? What did you do? Why did you save us? I'm gonna go with... I mean, it's obvious what he did. He froze time. It's kind of obvious why he did this as well, because he said so. So I'm gonna go with where have you been hiding? Where have you been hiding all this time? Now, Barry. Is that any way to talk to your savior? To answer your question... Now, Barry. Is that any way to talk to your savior? To answer your question, I've been following this dragon for a while now. I've been masking my presence so that you couldn't find me by using his sight, smell, hearing, or magical sense. I have been watching your battle since it began, and I must say, I am not very impressed. Are you kidding me? What do you expect me to do against a dragon? How about using that device you're holding in your hand? Yeah, and what would you have me do? Max my strength and punch him to death? Excuse me, sir? Me and Eden both turn around at the same time and see that Rose is standing up and looking at Eden confused. Hi. My name is Rose. Are you a friend of Barry? Eden furrows his brows and makes a hand gesture towards Rose. What are you doing? Rose asks him. Interesting. Eden says, Rose, I've cast a spell that is supposed to freeze time for everyone except me and Barry. Have you by any chance studied time magic in your lifetime? No. I can't cast any magic at all. I'm not a mage. Eden's smile widens. Then I offer you my sincerest congratulations. As of this moment, you are officially a time weaver. What? Eden turns to me. Barry, I must admit, I don't think I've ever seen such diversity in a team before. A time weaver, a healer in armor, a survivor from the Beacon of Hope, and a stat device wielder. I think I'm starting to root for you. Good, then maybe you can finish off that dragon for us. What's a time weaver? What's so special about being a stat device wielder? What would get the most information? I mean, I know that Eden's not actually going to answer any of my questions, because that's what Eden does. And once again, if anyone wants to offer suggestions, I will pay attention to that. If it's in chat, then you can whatever happens with the dragon is going to happen. I'm going to go with what's so special about being a stat device wielder. What's so special about being a stat device wielder? It's more special than you think. You are one of the rare cases that can utilize this device to its full potential. Not many can boast such a feat. Allow me to demonstrate. Eden snaps his fingers and my stat device flies out of my hand and into his. The device then suddenly starts glowing and it looks like it's accumulating a massive amount of energy in a very short amount of time. Hey! I realize that this must all be very confusing for you, Barry, so I'm going to provide you with a little bit of context. The beast that just attacked you is Tyrath, the self-proclaimed king of all dragons. The reason he's looking for me is because I wrote a message in the stars last night in an ancient language used primarily by dragon hunters. The message purpose was to let all dragon hunters who entered this contest know that the dragon exists on this island and give them all a little extra incentive to hunt him down. I very much doubt that any of them will pose a realistic threat to him, but it will be fun to watch. He finishes charging up my stat device and then hands it back to me. As I hold it in my hand, I can feel a powerful surge of magical energy run through me and flow through all of my body. I believe your ultimate goal was to win this tournament and become a mage, was it not? Well, Barry, I am now giving you a taste of that power. For about 5 minutes, you will have magical powers comparable to mine. More than enough to drive off the dragon, I'll wager. All of the information you need in order to use your power should have been transferred into your mind by the stat device. I'm looking forward to watching your battle. Eden then starts to fade into thin air. When only his outline is visible anymore, he says, "Oh, and I'd recommend starting with the magical barrier. Your friends don't seem to be doing very well." Return to game. As Eden vanishes completely, time is slowly starting to resume its course. I take the Stillwater's advice and quickly conjure a protective barrier around Kate and Darren. It's amazing how natural this is feeling. It's as if I've been casting spells my entire life. Is this really the true power of my stat device? Just as I finish casting my spell, time unfreezes itself and the dragon's fire hits my magical barrier head on. The flames then disperse into the air, while Kate looks around her, shocked at the discovery of the newly formed barrier protecting her. "Darren, did you—" "No, it wasn't me. This barrier is leagues stronger than anything I could ever conjure. I don't know who did this." "You!" the dragon shouts from high above in the sky while pointing at me. "You did this! It does not matter. All you've managed to achieve is to make yourself my next target. Prepare to die." God, mouse, stop. This mouse sucks. I conjure another protective barrier around me and Rose just in time to defend us from the incoming flames. My barrier is holding up much better than Darren's. There's no sign of it breaking anytime soon, and I'm barely even feeling the heat outside of it. The question is, what am I going to do now? Looking at my device, I can see that my stats have remained the same. Looking at my device, I can see that my stats have remained exactly the same, and I have no extra available points. So then what did Eden do to it? I need to figure this out later. At any rate, judging by the amount of extra energy I can sense in the stat device and the speed at which it's getting consumed, I'd say that the estimate Eden gave me is spot on. I have less than 5 minutes to finish this fight, but even with all this magical power, the dragon may well pulverize me in a one-on-one fight if I don't do this right. Both Darren and Kate are too exhausted to assist me, so I'm on my own for the time being. Even as I'm standing out here thinking, time is running out. But can I afford to just start fighting without any plan whatsoever? No time to think, I'll improvise. Or make a plan before engaging the dragon. I don't think I'm gonna do anything, but I'm gonna save anyways. So I already know how to do this. But I'm gonna go with, it's smart Barry, so he should make a plan. But I like being impulsive Barry. I'm gonna go with impulsive. No time to think, I'll improvise. Having all of these powers means nothing if I just sit here and let them go to waste. I'm going to have to improvise. First things first, I need to get out of this barrier without getting burnt to a crisp. I cast a spell to protect myself from fire, and then a spell that enables flight. I fly out of the barrier and right through the scorching flames. It feels as if I were in an oven, but at least I'm not getting any visible burns. The dragon sees me fly through his fire and lets out an intimidating roar. I position myself on the same level of height as him, a few dozen feet from where he's hovering, and I stop in midair. Let's try acid first. I make a ball of acid and send it flying towards the dragon. Tyrath claps his wings together, which generates a strong gust of wind and scatters the acid in a strong gust of wind that scatters the acid and sends me spinning backwards. That disoriented me for a bit, but it took me a few seconds to figure out where the dragon went. Once I locate him, I send a powerful jet of water in his direction. The dragon gets pushed back by the force of the impact, but aside from that, it does not look like he took any damage. Observation check successful, level 4. I notice that there's something off about the way the sun is shining on the dragon's scales. It's as if the light is coming from the wrong direction. Could it be that the dragon I'm looking at is an illusion? If that's the case, then where is the real dragon? I cast a spell on myself that allows me to see through illusions. Sure enough, the dragon in front of me disappears as soon as I cast the spell, and I see the real Tyrath closing in on me from the right. I mimic his earlier move and clap my hands, which creates an incredibly strong blast of air in front of me, sending the dragon back about 50 feet. I don't know how you were able to see through my illusion, human, but I'm not going to take it easy on you anymore. After finishing his phrase, the dragon immediately appears in front of me and swings one of his claws at my chest. It was all I could do to teleport out of harm's way in time, with a short-range spell suited for combat. Me and the dragon spend the next few minutes teleporting one after the other and trying to take each other by surprise. This is getting me nowhere. I unleash a powerful explosion of fire all around me, which pushes the dragon back a few feet, but it doesn't harm him in the slightest. That's right, the legends always said that dragons were immune to flames, as well as mind-affecting spells and illusions. Damn it. There's so many big spells I could cast right now, but almost all of them would endanger Kate, Darren, Rose, and even myself. I'd have to get back to the others and cast some protection spells before I start shooting tornadoes out of my fingertips. If I do it now, I might still have time to finish this fight before my 5 minutes are up. Continue fighting with safe spells, start fighting with bigger spells. I mean, I'm going for the impulsive way because he's a badass, so. Start fighting with bigger spells. I'm just wasting time like this. There's no point in having all this power if I don't use it to its full extent. I teleport next to Kate and Darren and conjure a strong barrier around them and Rose in order to stop the dragon from coming in. Barry, what happened? Darren asks me. This magic power radiating from you. It's insane. I'll explain later. I don't have much time and I'll need to concentrate as much as possible on casting these protection spells. After I finish casting the spells on the three of us, I do the same for Rose and then I fly out of the barrier to face the dragon again. Finally, I can go all out now. I raise my hands in the air and feel all of my magical power flow through me. This is what I've always wanted. This is what I've been looking for all my life. I'm not going to let one single dragon stand in my way. I start by creating a tornado. The wind around me is now so strong that it's literally breaking chunks of rock from the ground and making them fly around me. clashing with the trees that are getting uprooted one by one. It's almost like a scenario from a horror book. The dragon is struggling to keep himself airborne, while my protections from the wind are allowing me to fly through the currents with ease. Next, I use my earth magic to animate a giant made out of rock. The ground trembles violently as an enormous rock golem rises from it slowly, making it seem like it had been simply sleeping all of this time. Once it gets up, I can see that the giant measures at an impressive 200 feet, and once it spots the dragon, it uses its huge hands to crush him between them. Tyrath lets out a deafening roar, a roar so powerful that it creates an explosion of air all around him, and it actually shatters the giant's hands, setting the dragon free. That was so loud that I had to use a spell to avoid losing my consciousness. I can only hope that Darren and the others have access to sonic protection as well. Even though he managed to get out, it's clear that Tyrath has taken a lot of damage from my last attack. He's now breathing fire hotter than ever before, engulfing my rock giant in flames and turning him into molten lava. Try all you want, little dragon, but you won't escape my grasp. Nothing can stop me now. Dozens of volcanoes are starting to erupt from the earth below as I use even more magical power, this time to call upon a rain of acid. The dragon screams as the acid burns through its wings, and he starts to desperately shoot fire everywhere above him in order to burn all of the acid before it reaches him. I teleport to Tyrath and point my palms towards him, blowing him away with a powerful explosion of air that stuns him for a few seconds. Since I've interrupted him from burning the drops of acid, the rain is now once more pouring on him, and the dragon starts to scream in pain again. It's over. He's no match for me. The time I have left will be more than enough to finish him off for good. Achievement: defeated Tyrath. Achievement unlocked: defeated Tyrath. Suddenly, the whole area gets covered in a blue light, and I'm starting to feel an immense magical power coming from the air all around us. What's happening? Tyrath says as he... What's happening? Tyrath says, trying to hold back the pain. Has it been so long you've forgotten, old friend? I hear Eden's voice coming from the left. I turn around and see the Stillwater floating in the air next to us with his usual smile on his face. Eden, the dragon says. Just because these traps haven't been activated in more than a millennia does not mean they are out of function. Eden continues. The Lesathi of old were anything but shoddy craftsmen. This trap was just a bit out of tune, that's all. Luckily, your continuous use of flames and Barry's volcanoes were just enough to warm it up. As the two of them speak, the ground is shaking violently and the blue light is intensifying. You'll pay for this, both of you. I will not rest until I hunt you down. Nowhere on this continent will be safe for you ever again. Do you hear me? I will hunt you down. Wipe that smile off your face, you low-born little... All of the magic in the air gets unleashed in a single moment, and the dragon gets teleported away as the blue light disappears and the earthquake slowly stops. The energy from my device is gone. I could sense it disappear the moment the dragon was teleporting. I could sense it the moment the dragon was teleported away. Eden turns back to me. Well done, Barry. You have far exceeded my expectations. What just happened, or who are the Lesathi? Well, I'm trying to do Smart Berry, so who are the Lasathi? The Lasathi are the most ancient race on the Lasathi are the most ancient race on this continent, although the name is a bit hard to remember, so most people prefer to call them simply the Ancients. Their talent at crafting magical artifacts and devices was unmatched for thousands of magical devices was unmatched 1,000 years ago, and we still use many of those artifacts to this day. The trap that just got triggered was also made by them some 2,000 years ago. It was supposed to get activated at the first sign of flames, but because it has been at least 1,000 years since it was last used, its mechanism was a little rusty. That's why it needed to be warmed up a bit first. That discharge of energy from the trap must have surely fried your stat device, but don't worry, it'll recover in a few minutes with all of your previous stats. What did the trap do to the dragon? It transported him to a dragon prison on this island. Since I doubt there's anyone actually guarding it at this point, I imagine that he won't have much trouble escaping. But even so, he'll still have to destroy the prison's automatic defenses, and he'll have to travel all the way back here. So it should be at least a few days before he comes back. Continue. Eden, shouts Darren as he comes closer to us. What are you doing here? Wait, I don't understand. Isn't he your friend? Rose asks us. That's what I thought, but it seems I was mistaken, Eden says, feigning sadness. He then turns to leave. No, wait, don't go, Rose calls out to him. I'm sure Darren didn't mean what he said. I thank you for your kindness, Rose, but I can tell when I'm not wanted. I bid you farewell. He then starts fading away and teleports out of our sight. Or did he? After seeing how well he could mask his presence before, I'm starting to wonder. It's a bit creepy knowing he could just be able to stand there, invisible and untraceable, listening to everything we say. We really need to find some way to detect these kinds of things. Darren, how could you do this to your friend? That was horrible, Rose says. Yeah, Darren, you should be ashamed of yourself. Calm down, Rose. It's not as simple as that. Or ask Kate to freeze the whole area to make sure Eden isn't around anymore. I'm gonna go with ask Kate to freeze the whole area because I'm doing Smart Berry and I know that Eden is kind of a dick. Kate.
Bitch! I love you!
Thank you, that team hero. Thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate you. Kate, could you freeze the whole area around us? I want to make sure that Eden isn't hiding around us. I want to make sure that Eden isn't hiding around us invisibly and listening to what we're saying. Kate nods and she sends a powerful wave of freezing magic all around us. The air has suddenly gotten a lot chillier, and all of the trees now look like they're made of crystal. But there's no sign of the still water. Even if he got to block Kate's attack, we would still have sensed at least some magical power coming from if he were still here. I guess he really did just teleport away after all. I don't understand, Rose said. What's gotten into everyone? Eden saved all of our lives. I saw it happen before my eyes. We all would have been dead if not for him. He's the one that gave Barry all of those powers that allowed him to fight the dragon. Why are you acting like he's our enemy?
Really? Oh, Daddy, now I love you again.
Thank you, that team hero. Thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. How's your night going? That's because he is our enemy, Kate tells her bluntly. We first met him when we first met him this morning, he tried to kill Darren outright and ultimately decided against it on a whim. If what you're saying is true, then he really did save all of our lives, then I am inclined to believe that this was also a decision he made on a whim. What was the motivation he gave for saving the four of us? Kate's rebuttal made Rose lose a bit of steam. She pauses. He said that he couldn't let the dragon win after having gloated like a villain from a children's storybook. Well, there you have it. But never mind Eden's intentions. What I am most interested in knowing is how you both got to interact with him in the middle of our fight when neither me nor Darren saw him until the end of the battle. He froze time, I tell her. Froze time? Darren asks, perplexed. How is that even possible? Beats me. He just snapped his fingers and made time stop for everyone except me and him. Wait, what about Rose? Kate asks. He said that I was able to resist his spell because I'm a time weaver? Rose answers her. What the hell is a time weaver? Kate says. He didn't tell us, but judging by the name, I'd say it's a person that can use time-altering magic, I tell her. Rose, did you start feeling any different after having withstood Eden's spell? Darren asks her. No, I feel exactly the same as before. I think he was mistaken. I can't have time powers. His spell must have just malfunctioned, that's all. Perhaps you're right, Darren says. At any rate, we should be thankful enough that we somehow managed to make it out of this alive. I've heard stories about how dangerous this place was, but I never imagined that it would be as bad as this. We're all in terrible shape. Here, let me start casting some healing spells. Once Darren finishes... Well, I'm so sorry to hear that you're nervous, stressed, and anxious. I'm told that my voice is relaxing and this is a really good story, so I hope that me reading it helps you feel better. I really appreciate you choosing me to help you feel better or listen to my story, my reading. Sorry, I'm still kind of new at this. Well, thank you. Since this is a choose your own adventure story, I kind of know the direction that I'm wanting to go, but if you'd like to help me choose some of the choices, you are more than welcome to do so. Just type it in chat. Once Darren finishes healing us all, we waste no more time and resume our journey in order to avoid meeting any mages or creatures that may have been attracted by the loud noises of our previous battle. I still don't understand one thing, Barry. Kate tells me as we walk side by side. How did Eden manage to give you all of those powers? As far as I know, transferring powers between mages is impossible without some kind of tool to assist them. Oh, he used my stat device. I'm not sure exactly what he did, but he made it start glowing, and then I suddenly got all of those spells. I've tried playing around with the stat booster ever since in order to see if I could unlock some secret options or something, but I couldn't figure out how he did it. Wait, you're saying you got all of those powers through your stat device? No, that's impossible. In order for that to work, you need to have even less magical power than a human. Otherwise, it wouldn't match at all with the magical frequency of this device. Okay, this mouse sucks. She pauses. Actually, come to think of it, your magical aura was always weaker than that of a normal human. Very weak, in fact, almost as if you were a. She suddenly stops in her tracks and looks straight at me. The look in her eyes slowly turns into one of both sheer terror and sudden understanding. Then her look becomes dark, darker than I've ever seen it before, as she continues to look me straight in the eyes, almost as if I were what? Never mind, it wasn't important. Let's catch up with the others. We're lagging behind again. The tone in her voice was as cold as her freezing magic. She does not say another word to me and goes to catch up with Darren and Rose. Great. Just what we needed. More underlying conflict in our group. I'm sure that this can only end well for everyone. Next chapter. Okay. Well, I need to go to sleep, but rather than go to bed, I think I'm going to turn this into a rerun of the beginning of the story. It will only be able to play for about an hour and 15 minutes, but I hope that it's enough. Let me get that set up really quickly. Thank you so much. I'm not going to bed yet. I'm going to set up this so there's a rerun and you'll be able to listen to the beginning of the story if you'd like. You don't have to stick around if you don't want to. Okay, so edit stream info.